Hello, hello, hello. My name is Feyisayo Aluko. I am a writer, audio designer, and spoken word poet based in Brooklyn, New York. So let's get into it. Where am I currently? Brooklyn, New York. But I guess more specifically, I am rounding up my last semester of uni. I'm getting a degree in writing from Pratt Institute. So I'm about to be in that phase where I'm transitioning from being a student, etc., into like the real world, I guess. Yeah. Um, how was it like adapting to my new environment? I guess that's a good question. So, funny enough, I lived in Lagos and I moved from Lagos to New York in 2019. Um, so that was a while back, but I remember that it wasn't that much of a culture shock because Lagos is a big city, and then moving to New York was just like another big city, so it wasn't that deep. Um, One thing I really really liked, and that I guess I had to adapt to was the subway system. Moving around is so much easier than in Lagos without the like excessive traffic, the need to drive, or the not great public transportation system. So that I had to learn and I guess adapt to. Something else I had to adapt to was the weather, and not necessarily that it was hot or cold, but that it changed so like drastically. So I came in the summer, and then I had fall, which was great, and then winter, and it's like you have to have a separate set of clothing for winter, and you have to have a separate set of clothing for summer. It's just like details like that are very country specific and very actually New York specific because I know there's some places in the US that don't need all that extra stuff like Cali. But sha sha sha. New York was like that for me. I had to adapt to that. Was there anything else I adapted to? I think the relative relative safety. I say relative because I mean New York is still New York, but I could just kind of like be outside walking up and down as a woman and not feel like, to be fair, relative because New York has its own specific set of issues. But like um in the neighborhoods that I've lived in and my school's campus, like being able to just like wear what I want and take a walk. That was something I had to adapt to, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what's the weather like most of the time? I kind of answered this. Right now it's May. No, it's April. So we're still in the spring shop. The weather is gorgeous. I don't have my window thing open, but the trees are just starting to like bloom, flowers, the leaves, and so there's a lot of like green. The weather is nice, it's cool, it's not too hot, it's not too cold, which is like perfect. If you had talked to me about 2 months ago. It was miserable. It was so cold. I don't even know if maybe it snowed like once or twice, but it was just cold. And I generally like the cold, but yeah, it was ridiculous. So most of the time, it kind of changes. It's only really like nice in the spring and in the fall, where it's like cool enough to not need too many layers, but also no, it's cool enough to not want to be naked running up and down and warm enough to not need layers. I don't know if I switched that, but you get what I mean, basically. Yes, that's what the weather is like. What else about the weather? Um, so a couple actually last week or the week before it was raining a lot, which I like because it reminds me of the rainy season in Lagos. I actually really, really love the rain and specifically the smell of like earth when it's wet. And I don't get that in New York because there's a lot of concrete, sidewalks, all of that is concrete. I live in a very like urban area of New York with not that much. Like the parks are not in my neighborhood, they're beside my neighborhood. Well, I take that back. I live in a residential area that has a lot of concrete. So Clinton Hill has like the brownstones, stoops, and stuff like that, and nice wide roads, but they're still roads. When I was in Lagos, My mom's garden, like every time it rained, you would just be able to like smell the earth. I love that smell. So that's that about weather. How's the food like? So I don't know what other people in New York think. Oh, let's it be said that I was speaking for the whole of New York. However, I think the food is phenomenal. I think New York has a really great like variety of food. I think my favorite cuisine is Italian food. I think the Italian food here is phenomenal. There's like Little Italy that has really great food. I think the Indian food here is great. Nigerian food is actually good. I also have family here that cook, and if you substitute like certain ingredients, it's not very difficult to make Nigerian food. They love Nigerian restaurants, even though some of them are not like for some reason we have not been able to like master suya in the US. The places I've been in the US, I haven't seen people do suya properly, but most of the like jollof rice, like people know how to do that properly. So I think the food is really really good. The one difference is that food is pretty expensive here. Living, being alive is expensive, but the food is very expensive. Um, so what, like, if I order like jollof rice, chicken, plantain, it will run me like $35. In Lagos, I can get that for like, actually, I don't know with inflation right now. So let me not give prices. But when I was at Womsha, it was cheaper. So that's different. It's also when I moved, I guess that's another thing I had to adapt to. The food itself, like the kinds of food, is different, and so like I had to change the way I ate. Nigeria, I don't think has as much processed food, like processed like we have artificial stuff in our food. Not to say that we're that great, but there's something about like the consumerism in the US and the food industry and all the ways it goes where it's like I come to the US, I'm breaking out, gaining weight in ways that I wasn't in Nigeria. So that part of the food was a bit difficult for me to navigate, figuring out what I can eat, what I can't eat. Like in Nigeria I didn't have any allergies or sensitivity to anything I ate. Here there are things that like make me feel nauseous. And it'd be like the same thing like bread. Actually that's true. Bread. Regular sliced bread here for some reason makes me feel nauseous. When I'm in my country, everything is fine. I can eat anything I want. So like those slight differences, I guess. Yeah. And then the next question is, how are the people like? The people. The people are different, obviously, because it's a different country, and I think it's because the cultures are different. So Nigeria, and more specifically Lagos, I feel like there's a certain communal energy that we have that isn't found here, and there are pros and cons for it. Because I actually like kind of being anonymous. I don't need to know my neighbors. Nobody needs to know me, kind of thing. Nobody talks to me on the train. Nobody's trying to like become friends. I don't know. I appreciate that because it helps me to focus better. Because if I'm on the train and I'm like, I'll probably end up doing work if I'm on a long ride or something, right? That kind of thing. But I guess the individualism has its like cons because it's very easy to feel alone, left out, and like in your own bubble in New York. The people themselves, I think people are people, regardless of where we go. People say that New Yorkers are mean. I don't really see that. I haven't had anybody I've been here for 5 years. Yeah, I haven't had anybody be like specifically mean or unkind to me. But I will say we're a lot less like chatty. Like you don't really just see people. I mean, I haven't just seen random people just like striking up conversation on the road. I don't see it. Maybe they're doing it too, and I'm not seeing it. But the people are not being. I think we're just people. Yeah. The one thing though is that like, as a proper Yoruba babe, I would greet elders when I walk past in Nigeria as I should, and then I came here and it was just a habit, and then it was just weird for people, I guess, because they just weren't expecting it. So I'll say like, "Good afternoon, good evening," that kind of thing, and they'd be like, "Oh, good evening to you too." Yeah. But people are people. And then interesting facts, observations about my new environment. Uh facts. Okay. So again, I live in Brooklyn and I'm on like I'm closer to the edge of Brooklyn. If you move further into Brooklyn, it's very interesting because it's kind of there's some places that look similar to other places in Nigeria, and I'll explain. So if you're going from where I live to the airport, there's this building. It's like a hospital, I believe, and it has this like white metal. I don't know if it's called like a I don't know what's the shot design shot like I want like GT Bank, how like GT will always have these like metal thing going on that's interesting and weird. Like that building has it, but there's white. Details like that. We have similar things going on in Lagos and Nigeria. Sorry, in Lagos and New York. Even just like how in some certain places there just be like men outside, like 10, 15 men just chilling and talking in night. And here, like you see that as well, in certain neighborhoods. So I thought it would be like completely different. My image of like New York City was the high rise like skyscrapers, very clinical, very moved. And I'm realizing that there are pockets that are very residential, very community driven, with like men outside. I don't know what they're doing outside. They're outside, um, kind of chilling. Uh, that's another thing that I noticed. New York has this thing where you're in one neighborhood and it's gorgeous and it's quiet and it's residential, and the next neighborhood is like really poorly maintained. You can tell that the people there don't make a lot of money. The government has completely forgotten about that area, kind of like pack people into one place and kind of fill them, but then they're like right next to each other. And so like you have all these new developments here and then just like move 2 blocks down and everything changes. That actually was a shock for me. Um, it was the change was just drastic. Yeah. Okay, so chugging along, how do I relate to / embrace the changes that come with this new place? I think I've touched on that actually. I took a so when I came in 2019, I took a gap year before I went to school, and that was super helpful for me because I had time to kind of like find my community, find my people, my church, my writing community, audio design, my actual interests. And so those were kind of like the anchor in which I used to explore New York. So I would go with those people. I would like come back. I basically had like a home base, and that part was helpful. So yeah, that's how I embrace the change. And then how is this new place like compared to where I was before? I mean, this whole conversation, I've been comparing Nigeria and New York, or Lagos and New York. And not to say that like one is better than the other. I definitely don't think that. When I'm here, I miss home. And actually, standard of living, New York is better. Nobody can argue that. But in terms of like where I want to be, and places that feel like home. When I'm here, I miss Lagos. When I'm in Lagos, I don't actually really miss New York, but I miss like the ease of being in New York. And that leads me to the last question, which is what are my goals, plans, aspirations as regards to this new place? And I guess largely overseas. So for my writing, for my general art practice, what I do research on and what I write about is like languages, loss of language, colonialism, cultures, all that good stuff. That's mainly about like the African continent. And so for being in New York, I want to find ways to facilitate my research on the continent, using like New York as an anchor because some of the best schools, some of the best research organizations are here. And they're really great opportunities for that. So I want to kind of use that as a springboard for my other aspirations, and to also enjoy my life. Yeah, I want to enjoy my life. New York is really, really great for having fun, especially in the summer. I love the summer in New York. There's always something to do. And so I want to kind of like have fun, travel a lot. Something that I didn't know before I came here was that there are a lot of things to do within the US. Like there's so many different climates, so many different cultures, so many different kind of fun things. Like the Californian experience is very, very different from the New York experience, is different from the Florida experience. And so I want to like do all those things. And so yeah, I want to explore more. And yeah, that's it. And that's me.